Mayor Mahoney. Mayor Pro Tem Ott.
Here.
Trustee Kimberly.
Here.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Here.
Trustee White.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. And approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
Not loud enough. I move to approve the agenda with the following additions. The addition of item number 7H, extending the deadline for the open trustee position applicants until June 30th as per the newsletter. And 7I, a motion to approve Mayor Pro Tem Dave Ott to run for the open position on the CML Executive Board.
I'll second.
Roll call, please. Roll call, please.
Trustee Ott.
Aye.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Kimberly.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. All right, next item is audience business. Chief Gabrielson, if you would. Can you turn the microphone on? You broke it.
How's that, better?
You know, there's a joke there about an officer helping out the fire. I don't know. I just, somewhere, I'll
I'm
figure
going
it
to
out.
leave that one alone.
But, all right.
Ken Gabrielson, Hudson Fire. Good evening. I'm here just to find out the status of our parking garage next door. It was put up in March. On our end, we made some mistakes because I assumed that Eagle was going to do what they were supposed to do, apply for all the permits and all that stuff, and apparently they did not. We fought with Eagle for a period of 2 or 3 months to try to get plans drawn. They submitted the wrong plans to Safe Build.
Chief Gabrielson, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
You're on.
It was. Oh, now it's working. My understanding is that the fire department is seeking a variance for
Yes.
that building, and that is a public hearing matter that needs to be noticed, and my understanding is notice is in the process of being published if it hasn't been already, and that's scheduled for an upcoming board meeting, not tonight, but either the following June 15th meeting or the first meeting in July. And because that's what we call a quasi-judicial matter, where this board is going to have to make a determination whether or not to grant that variance based on the facts that are presented to them that evening and giving the public an opportunity to weigh in on it, that's why we have to legally issue that public hearing notice. I don't want you really discussing the facts or the evidence about that variance request here this evening.
Okay.
What we will do is certainly set aside amount of time for you to make your case in front of this board the night of that public hearing, and make sure that you're well aware of that date in advance. So
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
just a
that'd-
matter of due process to make sure that the public that might want to weigh in on that also has an opportunity to hear everything that you're hearing and has an opportunity to react. So thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
that's pretty succinct. We were supposed to be on the agenda tonight, but then we got removed, and with no explanation of why. So that's why I decided to come.
My guess is it's because we legally have to publish in the newspaper notice of that public hearing at least 15 days before that public hearing, and that's probably why it got pushed to the date it got pushed to.
That's understandable, but it would have been nice for me to be informed of that, not just you're taken off the agenda.
Agreed.
All right, Chief, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll get, yep. It'll come forward. All right. Mr. Bush, did you want to speak?
I wanted to speak during the public hearing relative.
Okay, all right. Then you didn't need to fill this out. All right, thank you. All right, next item is a consent agenda. On the consent agenda is the payment approval report in the amount of $129,904.24, as well as the May 18th, 2021 minutes and the bank signer resolution number 2021-2. Do I have a motion?
I move.
I second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Jeffrey,
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney,
Yes.
Trustee White,
Yes.
Trustee Kimmerly,
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
And motion carries. All right. On to the really important business. Mr. McBroom. Would you like to step up and let her swear you in and make you officially part of the Loch Buoy town? And as I so fondly love saying, you get sworn in and then you get sworn at.
Brian McBroom,
I, Brian McBroom,
do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
I do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
and the laws of the State of Colorado,
the laws of the State of Colorado,
and the town of Loch Buoy,
and the town of Loch Buoy,
and will faithfully perform the duties of the office of the town administrator,
and will faithfully perform the duties of the office of town administrator,
on which I'm about to enter
upon which I am about to enter to
to the best of my ability.
the best of my ability.
Welcome. Well, he's a man after my own heart. Very few words. All right, like it. Straight to business. Okay. Welcome, and I look forward to the years to come. You know, we got a lot of stuff on the horizon, and we're gonna be barreling through it. So, with that, we'll now move on to the next one, which is resolution number 2021-3. Chief.
Okay, this resolution is to complete a resolution for the lease purchase of a new patrol car. It's a 2020 Ford Explorer Hybrid. It is budgeted for the lease, and so we just need to make it official by doing the resolution.
Okay. Is this, just one question, you said hybrid or is it full electric?
Nope, it's a hybrid.
Okay.
The Explorers aren't available full electric yet.
All right.
They probably will be.
Any questions, comments? Trustee White, Trustee Kimmerly, Trustee Jeffrey, Trustee Ott? No? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve Resolution Number 2021-3, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Loch Buoy, Colorado, approving the form of the lease purchase agreement with Clayton Holdings LLC, St. Louis, Missouri, and authorizing the execution and delivery thereof.
Second. All right, motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mayor Mahoney,
Yes.
Trustee White,
Yes.
Trustee Kimmerly,
Yes.
Trustee Ott,
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, and motion carries. All right, the next item is the Reed Snow Business Park subdivision. Did anyone want to?
So at the request of the applicant, Mayor, we need to continue this, open the hearing and continue to July 6, 2021 at 6:30 PM.
Okay. All right, and we'll do that. The time is now 6, we'll look on here where it's correct, 6:40. We'll open the public hearing, and then we will continue that as to July 6, 2021. Specifically at 6:30? All right, at 6:30, all right. Okay, next item is the public hearing for ordinance number
So
2021.
we should have a
Oh,
motion.
I'm sorry.
I think we should have a motion to continue.
You want to, okay, you want a motion to continue? All right.
I move to continue the Reed Snow Business Park subdivision approval to July 6, 2021 at 6:30 PM.
Second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Kimberly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just gotta say, it makes it so much easier when you put your glasses on your face to read. They were sitting on top of my head like a decoration. All right, next item is the ordinance 2021-665. Mr. Sura.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a brief intro to this discussion.
Maureen, should I go ahead and open a public hearing before
Yeah, I
he
just was
starts?
just confirming with Mr. Stamey that in fact, this board had opened the public hearing previously and then continued it a couple times, always on the record to a date certain. And so we are back in a reopened public hearing.
And time is now 6:42, reopening the public hearing. And
Yeah, and as part of that public hearing, there were some questions that came up from both members of the public as well as some of the trustees, and I have attempted to answer those questions in a memo that I was included in as part of your packet. And I just wanted to quickly go through what that memo, kind of the gist of that memo. Certainly oil and gas industry is an industrial activity that affects noise, air, public health, and safety. We know about the amount of noise that can happen particularly during drilling, but it's also during production. There are going to be compressor engines, as are on almost every oil and gas well site, particularly when you have multiple wells. Ultimately, they will need artificial lift and will have multiple pump jacks. This is 4 pump jacks operating on 4 wells. 9 wells would require 9 pump jacks. There's going to be dust and emissions. There's going to be impacts to air quality. All of this we discussed. This is Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment 2019 study that found that they looked at the risks of oil and gas industry and found that there weren't any long-term health risks less than 500 feet. Under 500 feet and more. Less than 500 feet, they thought that there could be some small long-term health risks, but there were certainly some short-term acute health risks as far out as 2,000 feet, particularly during the drilling and flowback phase. And again, this is a conclusion. It said there were locations of 500 feet. Their exposures could exceed guideline levels for a small number of chemicals when our exposures decreased rapidly with distance from the hypothetical facilities, but remained above guideline levels out to 2,000 feet. And you can imagine the kind of emissions that you're looking at. Diesel fumes, you've got methane, benzene coming from compressor engines, storage tanks. And there's also the safety risk because this is explosive chemicals. Current code requires a site-by-site analysis to make sure that an oil and gas facility or anything adjacent to an oil and gas facility is compatible with that industrial use and requires buffering between land uses, but does not define the distance of those buffers. What we're trying to do here is define that distance, an adequate distance based on the size of the facility. Weld County requires a straight 350-foot setback in residential areas of the county, whether it's 1 well or 20 wells. We are looking at something that is a little bit more tailored to the kind of oil and gas development that's actually being experienced out here, allowing for much shorter setbacks for 1 to 2 wells. 3 to 14 is 350 feet, 5 to 24 is 400 feet, and 25 or more wells is 500 feet, and a flow line or gathering line is a 50-foot setback. One of the areas where we've heard a lot of concern is around this 350-foot setback from 3 to 14 wells. And I just want to reiterate why that is justified. First, there's precedent. Certainly, the county surrounding us is 350 feet. Weld County is a more rural area, and yet they've decided that 350 feet is justified based on the kind of oil and gas development that we're experiencing here on the Front Range. Commerce City has a 1,000-foot setback, Longmont has 750, and Fort Collins has a 500-foot setback. There are some setbacks that were much lower than that, but those were based on when there was individual wells. In Dacono and Firestone have a 150-foot setback, but that was based on individual wells when those were passed. Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission has noise regulations that are measured at 350 feet. Noise like odor and pollution dissipate over distance. And so the farther you are from an oil and gas location and the source of that odor or noise, the less you're going to be impacted by it. We have the health studies. There's about 30 health studies that have been put into your packet that talk about some of the concerns around air pollution, specifically from oil and gas facilities. Emission noise from recompletion and maintenance activities are going to last longer if there are multiple wells. We know that every one of these wells is ultimately going to be maintained, and when they get in there, they typically do all of them at once. Also, we know that they're probably going to be recompleted, which is hydraulic fracturing, and that is going to be a weeks-long activity. It's not going to be as long as it was when they were initially completing those wells, but it is going to take a number of days per well. Also, in the next 10 years, they're going to need to have artificial lift. Those pump jacks that you saw, that is just the nature of the oil and gas development out here, and where there is pump jacks, there is going to be noise and certainly visual impacts. And finally, the number of wells on an oil and gas location increases the risk of accidents, leaks, and explosions. Again, the greater distance is going to alleviate and minimize many of those risks. And that's kind of a summary of where we are. We did look at some additional language based on some of the concerns that were voiced. And I'm going to pull that up right now. And here's the language changes that we looked at. And again, there was some concern as to how these setback distances were being measured, and we wanted to make sure that it was very specific. And so the setback distances are going to be from the wellheads themselves, compressors, separators, treatment facilities, tank batteries, and emission control devices. These are those facilities that are known to have oil and gas. They can have emissions, and they are considered production facilities by the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission.
I've got a question. On the writing you have there at the very bottom, that last line of red that you have taken out, but not to include flow lines and gathering lines, I thought we were leaving that in. So we're saying when we're starting measuring, we're not measuring from the flow line.
Correct.
I think by removing that, you're saying we are.
No, I don't mean to. Because I have which term is defined to only include wellheads, compressors, separators, treatment facilities, tank batteries, and emission control devices. So no other facility, if it's not listed there, it's not included.
Okay, then I misinterpreted. Thank you for clarifying that.
Mark Bush, 905 West 124th Street, Westminster, 80234. It's nice to be back with everybody again. We're third time around, but as it relates to this issue. But we have our attorney, Mott Johnson, on the line. I thought that he would reiterate some of our, we're going to be a little bit of 2.0 again, reiterating kind of our general thoughts. And I think it's really important. I'm going to go back to this again. I mentioned this in our last public hearing. We're the only existing well facility in town. The USR, as well as the easement you're going to see, was approved by the town as well as us 3 years ago. It's 13.5 acres that surround the site. I continue to really feel this is a solution looking for a problem as it relates to our particular project. When we designed our well site and our setbacks, we were almost double the town's now current existing standard for setbacks. And the genesis of this whole thing relates to us coming forward and saying we're going to final plat. And now we're here trying to keep to the original intent of the easement that we established, and we thought we did a fine job in our setbacks. But I'll turn it over to Bill, then give Bill an opportunity to kind of reiterate some of our points, then I'll come and finish after that. Bill, I presume you're there?
Yes, I am.
And we have some exhibits that the council or the board asked us to show kind of what we were designed as a conceptual plat for that area, and then how the additional setback kind of physically impacts that too. So we have that also too. So thank you.
Great. So my name is Bill Kuriagis. I've appeared a couple times now. This is the third time, as Mark said. I'm the attorney for Lockwood Land One LLC. It's the developer of the Blue Lake project. Want to thank the board for continuing to work through this and make sure you get all the information you need on it. And, hopefully we can help give a little bit better picture on things. Our understanding was that the board was interested in getting some more information on exactly kind of what potential impacts this ordinance would have on my client's project. We weren't really yet in the process of platting, but in the interest of giving this information for the board, we basically engaged a consultant to go ahead and start putting together a potential layout. I'll show you this. So what's on the screen, hopefully you can see a conceptual layout of the remaining portion of the Blue Lake project. We generally believe this would be a viable layout. This was, just to be clear, it's not something that was put together with sort of full engineering. This is sort of conceptual layout and shows what potential lot layout would be in the absence of the proposed reverse setback ordinance. This was an effort to sort of try to maximize the lots in the sort of current condition, which is what had always been expected and there certainly could be changes to this, but hopefully I think it's at least helpful for illustrating kind of what we're looking at and why we're concerned about this. As we've talked about before, this area around the oil and gas facility, this is a 13 or so acre easement area that is a permanent oil and gas easement in which there will not be any development, and also the oil activities, the equipment is all focused to this central area here. So this is sort of a built-in buffer. Also contemplating having a small landscaping buffer on the north and the east. On the south here, there's actually a utility easement that creates another built-in buffer. And so the closest lots end up being over 300 feet away from any of the equipment. I think that'd be on the east side. It's about like 306, 307 feet to the closest lot. And you've got, the gap between the equipment to the landscaping buffer, then an additional gap of the oil and gas easement, then an additional landscaping buffer, then a road. And then you've got lots, and obviously you're going to have setbacks on a house. You're not going to have lots or houses that are actually going to front the street. So where the actual homes are is going to be even further back. On the south, you've got, again, like I said, you've got the utility easement. So there's an additional buffer there in addition to the oil and gas easement. And it ends up being over 300 feet as well. On the north, it's this obviously huge gap on just the oil and gas easement area itself. And so this ends up being pretty close to the sort of 350 feet. So this conceptual lot layout ends up with 310 total lots. And I can show you the other version of this, which we prepared. Now this shows overlaying the 350-foot setback and kind of some of the impacts. The total lot count on this drops to 287. So you lose about 23 lots. Again, this is sort of just a conceptual layout, and you can see most of the impact is on the east here in sort of a row of lots that you lose here, and then also a row of lots essentially on the south side. There's some impact here on the north as well, though this may end up being a landscaping buffer, so there may or may not actually be a loss of lots associated with this. But by pushing things around, that kind of can have a cascading impact on this. Like I said, it's a total loss of about 23 lots in this scenario. That's a significant impact. It may not sound like a huge number, but it's not quite 10%, but it's a meaningful impact on the overall profitability of the project. It also impacts Metro District financing and would also have a negative impact on the town's collection of fees for this project. As Mark said, our reaction when we look at this, and particularly when you look back at the first one, is that this really does seem like a solution in search of a problem. We've got built-in buffers here. We've got, roads, landscaping, utility easements, landscaping, big gap from the oil and gas easement itself. And, the closest homes would be over 300 feet away. It's not 350 feet, but I don't know that there's any particular magic to that, even from Mr. Sura's presentation. Just the fact that Weld County is 350, and other municipalities tend to have a more restrictive reverse setbacks. I don't think that necessarily suggests that this is necessary here. Again, as we discussed in the previous meetings, this is really regulation that's designed to protect people from themselves. If people buy lots and houses out there, they're going to know what they're getting. And we don't have a public outcry here. I am me and Mark, I believe, are the only members of the public who have spoken on this matter at all over the course of 3 meetings. Obviously lots of public notice, and no one's coming out to, clamoring for this. So we had previously proposed that the appropriate solution to this would be to have a carve out for this project. This project's been in the works for 17 years. Really, our objection to this is that it's changing the rules in the middle of the game. There certainly could be future oil and gas sites in the town that could be impacted, based on annexations and whatnot. And anyone who's annexing in that context is going to know what the rules are. That's different from the situation for my client, who is sort of being forced to potentially face this impact after they've made millions and millions of dollars in investments and public financing commitments and other things that are not we're not taking into account this kind of an impact. We made a proposal to have a carve out for a project that has vested rights that would essentially apply to our project. We think that's reasonable, and this would be in place. The ordinance would still be in place sort of as written for future projects in the town. I will note that I do think Mr. Sura's changes to that one provision certainly help with a little bit of the ambiguity on the measurements, but obviously we're still going to have the same concern because I think those 350-foot radiuses were still drawn from the same location based on what Mr. Sura had represented to us as far as how it should be measured. And I don't think that there was actually an intention to change how he was envisioning it being measured. I think it just clarifies and potentially clears up some ambiguity in terms of how the ordinance is supposed to work. If there's any questions for me, I'm happy to address them. Otherwise, if Mark has anything to add, I'd certainly welcome him to do so.
Any questions for Bill right now at all, or?
Questions, comments?
I would just add to some of the, we have deep vested rights language in our agreements. I would just comment that, Bill said in the middle of the game, this is like at the final step of the game. The reason that I believe we're here is that, I came forward and started talking to staff about, hey, we want to go back forward and plat this final area. I wanted to confirm the current town standard, and now we're facing an issue where we think we were very progressive in our original setbacks that we did 3 years ago. The town's USR also reflects this easement area. And, here we are trying to move forward, and it really feels like we've done more than met our obligation for public safety, as well as the intent of, fundamentally the resolution that you're looking at. Now, 23 lots, I could play games with the site plan and make it more impactful, less impactful, do some different things, but it's generally going to be somewhere between that 20 to 30 lots that it would be. Now, that doesn't seem like that many, but it's in terms of, Metro District value, lot value, infrastructure value, it's well into into a seven-figure number. Corresponding with that, the town collects about $30,000 plus in terms of different impact fees, sales and use tax fees, building permit fees per house. So there is an economic impact for the town, as well as the town's assessed valuation. Again, I think that we're very conscious, want to be a responsible developer, do things properly. We're certainly not looking to skinny things up. I could point to towns that have, Mr. Sura pointed out towns that have bigger reverse setbacks. Fort Lupton, some of those communities have 150-foot reverse setbacks today. So everyone can grab whatever example they choose to back their narrative, but I think that we've really established a good precedent in terms of what we committed to out there, and I'm asking the board we're not saying that don't necessarily adopt a 350-foot setback if that you choose to do, but exclude our project. And we've been here, as Bill mentioned, 17 years, but we're really at the lot layout right there. We're ready to move forward on a final plat. And but that's really, I don't want to necessarily repeat myself. I think you've heard it for the third time today, but we think we should be excluded from it, not only from a vested rights standpoint, but the preparation that we've done in terms of setting up setbacks out there already. Okay.
Thanks for bringing that in, because that was one of the things I was asking for. I wanted to see what you guys had. I've seen what Mr. Sura has set up. I didn't know what you guys had, and now seeing this gives me a little better idea. I think right now your minimum setback is about 306 feet.
That's correct.
So.
Yeah, we're 330 feet to the south. We're 306 feet to the east.
Yeah.
We really meet the 350 to the north already today. Just to give you a spatial, sometimes it's tough to visualize. 13 and a half acres, that's like 160 football fields are inside that area there. So sometimes you forget how big 13 acres is. It's a lot of land.
Okay. Anyone have any? Trustee White?
No, just thank you guys for bringing in the map. It definitely made it visually easy to see what you guys are coming from, and I think it looks great.
Yeah, and I also want to reiterate also too, now that I think about some of the other things, that we have there's midstream coming directly to it. All the production off these wells, both oil and gas, are going to be piped out of the facility. There's not going to be, the truck traffic would be crazy if we weren't having direct pipe connections. So we have all the midstream in place, so we're not going to have production being hauled in and out. And yeah, they will get reworked at some point in time, but that's not an annual occurrence. These things happen with big spaces between them then, so it's not as if there's going to be a small army out there working every day. It's going to be once every 5 years or something to that effect. And I also think that the amazing thing about the oil and gas industry is, they're smart people, man. The technology continues to change. I think drilling techniques are going to change. I think reworking techniques are going to change, the pump jacks, all those things. So as I think forward in the future, I don't know what it's going to look like out there 10 years from now. Incredible investment and incredibly bright people are involved in that industry. So.
All right, Trustee Kimmerly, anything? No?
Thank you.
Trustee Jeffrey?
Mayor, I would actually like to, after people have a chance to weigh in, make a motion to go to executive session to discuss this with Mr. Sura further.
Okay. Trustee Ott, anything?
I agree with you.
Now, I'm leaning that way myself, especially when I see, we're at 306 feet on the minimum. And I hate to say it, but I'm adding that extra, 44 feet. I just don't see it as necessary right now. But anyway, yeah. So she wants to go into exec session, so I'm going to give her a
So
verb.
you would need a motion to go into an executive session pursuant to CRS 24-64024B with
So
legal
moved.
counsel for the purpose of legal advice and to answer legal questions.
Thank you. I so move.
Second. Roll call, please. Thanks.
Trustee White,
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney,
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey,
Yes.
Trustee Kimberly,
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
No.
All right, and motion
Thank you.
carries. All right, so we're going to go into executive session. So, let's see. It is June 1st, 2021. The time is now 7:07. For the record, I am Mayor Michael Mahoney. As required by the Open Meetings Law, this executive session is This executive session is, I'm getting confused here, just give me 1 second. Well, because you laid out the whole thing there, Maureen. So you've got what she put in there, because I can't remember what she said. And we will, you know what, I'm even gonna do this. We'll just go into executive session in there, yeah. So we'll take a pause, and the time is now 7:08. We'll go ahead and go into exec session in there, so I can figure out who's going in there.